Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the health edition of Talk Television. I'm Anne Mroczkowski. Today, we're going to be talking about hair loss and the cosmetic possibilities out there to cover up. For men, thinning hair can be devastating, and all the more so for women. Why do some people experience hair loss and not others? There can be several factors. Sometimes it's an undiagnosed medical condition, like an underactive thyroid. Severe stress can cause thinning hair. Chemotherapy, of course, very toxic for hair follicles. And sometimes it's simply genetics. Today, we're going to explore wigs, extensions, hair pieces for both sexes with a man who has devoted his business to helping people with thinning hair and hair loss. Joining me today is my guest, Cam Toutounghi from the Hair Clinic in Montreal. Nice to see you, Cam.
Nice to see you, Anne. Thank you for having me.
Okay, so much of our identity as human beings, men and women both, we call our hair our crowning glory. We get depressed when we start losing our hair. So much of who we are is how we see ourselves in our image and our hair all together. So you see the psychological impact of hair loss every day in your business.
It's every day in my business, and it can be very devastating for anybody losing their hair, whether it's due to genetic causes, as you mentioned, medical causes, or chemotherapy. And hair seems to be the focus. When somebody is going through chemo, it's a life-threatening situation. They're losing their hair for a very brief period of time, relatively speaking, 6 months, 8 months, and yet they're not concerned about losing their breast, for example. They're more concerned about losing their hair. So it is a devastating thing to lose your hair.
Hair is powerful.
Hair is powerful. It creates your image. It's part of your image. It gives you personal power. It frames your face. It is your identity.
Big part of your identity.
Big part of your identity.
You know, I was recalling someone of my acquaintance who began to lose his hair at a very young age. He was actually a teenager. And, you know, we always think of teenagers of having a big bush of hair. But in fact, there is a minority of kids, young men, for example, who start losing their hair in their teenage years. And for them, it is like, you know, they're ready to give up on life because it's so devastating.
Well, just think about it. If it's a 16 or 17-year-old kid, and all of a sudden he feels older. His hair is being lost. His peers in school have a full head of hair. They're more attractive to the female counterparts, and somehow, some way, he feels inferior. His personal insecurities might be more featured that way. So hair is important to him.
Okay, you've brought in some wonderful things for us to look at today. Okay. Let's begin with, what do you have for men? And I found this very fascinating because I've never seen this type of hairpiece. Would you call it a hairpiece?
Okay. Hairpiece is anything with hair on it. So it is a hairpiece, but it's not a hairpiece. What we like to call it is a non-surgical graft. Okay,
can you lift it up so we can take a closer look at it? This is a non-surgical graft. And how would you attach this to, so this gives you a sense of this transparent part sits on the scalp.
This transparent part is a polymer. That polymer becomes basically bonded by suction and adhesion to the scalp, and it becomes part and parcel or an integral part of the scalp. It's continuous with the rest of your hair and virtually identical. It's matched as to density, as to hair color, hair texture, curl, highlights, whatever you like. And the hair is implanted in, and it behaves just like real hair. It takes on the color of your skin.
It takes on the color of your skin,
That's
yeah.
right.
And I can see that through the polymer is transparent. And how thin is it? May I feel?
It's very, very thin.
Oh, saran. It has the I would say the density of saran wrap.
That's right, and it has the stretchness also.
Yeah.
Of a saran wrap membrane.
So a gentleman, a young man, or any man really, who would need to add to the volume of his hair or to cover up a bald spot, this would be attached to the scalp in what manner?
Well, first of all, we'd make a mold, a very precise mold of the balding area of the scalp.
Yeah.
That mold will then be reproduced into a head, which is identical in surface and shape to the customer's head. The polymer will be sprayed onto that head, and then the hair will be, a sample of his hair will be sent along with it, and his hair will be matched for texture, curl, percent of highlights or gray or whatever, and density. And then we will then implant it in the same way as any surgical technique, by hand, one by one, into the polymer by heat. By applying heat, you melt the polymer and you implant it, and it becomes a follicle, a synthetic follicle with real hair, so it is real hair, that is growing from it. And once it is created, it becomes sort of like a skull cap, if you will, very thin membrane that is translucent, almost transparent, and that is then bonded, becomes part of the scalp. And literally, once it's bonded with the suction and the adhesion, you could lift the person if you wanted to, like those old commercials with the adhesives, and it would not come off.
So it's not ever meant to come off, or is it?
It's
or
meant
can it?
to be cleaned once a month.
Okay, so you can take it off.
You can take it off
and then
if you choose.
and you put it back on.
That's correct, but usually it's not the customer himself or the person losing the hair. They come to a specialized center, and then it's cleaned and then put on again, and a haircut's done at the same time, and everything's reintegrated.
Okay, so, you know, most of us know about wigs, although, I mean, wigs can be a lot of fun. I think that there are obviously women out there who occasionally would love to put on a wig to just really change their look. What have you got here for us?
Well, this is not really to demonstrate a wig, although it is, of course, a wig. What we're trying to demonstrate in this particular wig is the fact that we inserted highlights into this wig instantly.
Oh, as if this were a head of hair?
As if this were a head of hair, but it's supposed to be for people having their own hair, just wanting to make up their hair, add color, not necessarily depend on going to the hairdressers every 6 weeks or so, being able to change their color on a daily basis. So it becomes hair makeup. So what we've done, this is, let's say, the lady that has her own highlights. She has nice highlights in herself.
Yeah, this is human hair, isn't it?
This is human hair.
Yeah.
It's never been cut, so it's just long and haggard a bit. And what we've done is we just clipped on 100% human hair, but in a blonde auburn highlight.
Wow.
I don't know if the camera can see this, but...
The camera's picking it up beautifully.
Good. Now I'm going to remove this.
Okay.
So I'm just going to go 1,
Oh, so these
2, 3, if I can get to the third one. And instantly, whoops, we're getting hair static here. Instantly remove what we have here as a clip-on hair extension.
So this is a hair extension that would present in this auburn hair as a blonde highlight.
As a blonde highlight, as you saw before. And they come, of course, in many different colors, but it is human hair. It is hand-grafted in the same procedure as we saw before, in a greater density, just to make an impact.
Now, you've put these on with these little clips. Can you see these little clips? Okay. I'm just going to, like, give you a sense of, these are the clips that you use. They're very fine, actually. Yeah. But I know that this is one way of putting highlights into your hair. Is this what actresses and movie stars and, you know, people in the theater use on a regular basis?
This is one of many methods of highlighting, volumizing, and lengthening your hair.
Lengthening your hair.
When it's a clip-on, it's very difficult to use it to add length.
Yes.
It's possible, but it's more difficult because you have to put them on and remove them at a certain frequency. We like to call them semi-permanent because they can go on for a week at a time. You can sleep with them, you can be careful, put them up in a ponytail. But when you wash your hair, you need to remove them. So this type of hair extension is used mostly, as I said, for volumizing and for highlighting. There are two major types of hair extensions on the market today that are more permanent. So this is the semi-permanent.
Right.
And then we talk about the permanent types of hair extensions. The permanent, the first to come on the market, came on with what we call a Keratin bond. This type of bond requires a special tool, which is sort of like a gun, a heat gun. I wonder if Sean might help me. Sean, I can get the gun, please. So this basically is taken with a special gun. A little portion of your own hair is attached to it, right in the middle of it.
Yeah.
Such as this. And then the gun melts the plastic polymer, the thermoplastic adhesive.
Right.
And then it's wrapped around with your fingers, and it remains attached. Let me pull it out. And it'll be attached to your hair, either for highlighting or for lengthening or volumizing.
I see.
This is a permanent method in the sense that it's good for about 4 to 6 months, at which point it has to be removed and then reapplied again.
And it must be labor-intensive.
A good 4 hours for a full head of hair. Depends. Some people just want a bit of volume.
So you're saying this was the older technique, and there's a new...
This is about 10 years old.
Okay, and what's your new technique?
The new one is, as you can see here, this shines a little bit at the end.
Yeah.
And you can see the adhesive. You can see the thermoplastic adhesive, which is difficult to conceal. So in general, you really can't use it very high up in the scalp.
Yeah.
The latest technique is called X10D or X10D, Extend. And Extend is a very interesting technique because it allows you to conceal the adhesive on the interior.
Yes.
So all you see on the outside is, if I show the camera, is the hair.
Yeah. absolutely see. So you've lost the shininess of
You've
the
lost
end.
the shininess by doing what? By pairing up two extensions, taking a crochet, pulling the hair through the center. I actually have a crochet, I do believe. Thought I had one. I do.
You've got all these tools.
I got all these tools, you know, and one of these days they're going to go into the wrong place and hurt me. Okay? And very simply,
I see.
crochets pulled through. I'm going to do this very awkwardly, but try to.
So you pull the
some
hair through. And that's how it sits.
And then it's the bond is applied right on.
Right.
And then it's folded over, of course, and adhered properly. This is not the proper method. And then virtually, you will see just the hair. Again, you cover it with a bit of hair.
Okay. Now this is absolutely amazing. So we're looking at various cosmetic enhancements of hair. Not only to cover up hair loss, but also to enhance with what God has given you. And
that's right.
It could go either way. Okay, this is a live interactive show. We're going to bring our audience into the discussion now. We want to hear from you.